On today's episode, we have dived into Rick's business of Sun Bros, and we've created 3 simple steps for him to take his business to the next level.
Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners, Ritchey and Cameron Bawden, share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship and reveal what really happens behind the scenes of their personal and professional lives. As owners of 2 of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control. Stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
To have the color be the brand, or having like a playful animated Miss Jones, like trying to reach her type of vibe, because I think both are obviously very successful, and trying to find that is difficult on which way I want to go. And I don't want to do it more than once either. Like the brand I find is the one I want to stick with. And I always get confused, like, should I make like a animated of me and my brother on the side of the van, or should I just do like a sleek wrap with the logo and go from there?
That's a great question. So I feel like in regard to brand direction, obviously we've taken the more sleek, professional, simple. I feel like it was even almost 3 years before Coconut even put a number on there. And so my immediate go-to as far as the aesthetic of the brand, I honestly have less input as far as which direction you could go. I think there are amazing companies out there that could do you and your brother on the side, and I think it would look great.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a lot of companies that could make it very simple, very clean, matte color look, whatever you like. But to me, what brand is the person behind it who's obsessed with, is that thing going to stay clean? Is the truck going to stay clean, right? So when a customer sees it, it's like they're going to have their impression either way. So at the end of the day, it's like you got to know who your avatar is, where their attention is. But it really has to do with everything, as far as where your mind's at and how you want the brand to show up when that car actually pulls up. Because I've seen people have the cleanest looking trucks and they come to the house and it's like they're just not it. And I've also seen people with not amazing setups because they weren't able to invest in it, but they're just the best of people and they're going to get there. So I think it has more to do with the daily private input as far as where your actions go, where your brand's really going to shine.
When I think about brand, one of the things, I didn't know anything about brand before Dusty, and Dusty luckily is what he brought that to the table for us of how important branding is. And one of the things I learned from Dusty is consistency. And so whatever direction you decide to go, whether it's a simple, sleek, colored logo with the matte finish or glossy finish, I think that matters. It needs to be clean and crisp, right? Or an animation. But what I love is consistency. Are the color tones going to be the same on the uniforms that they are on the trucks, that they are on the website, that they are on your leave behinds? Even the fonts that we used when we were emailing our customers to basically the leave behind, right? So, hey, these are the fonts that we're using. These are the colors. These are the pictures. It's consistency, because what I've noticed, and this is where I feel like I connect with them, is that when I look at a brand, I don't know why it makes sense, but it just makes sense. And I think a lot of that is because it flows. And so with your brand, whatever you decide to do, make sure that it flows and it's consistent. We're doing we just created a full, basically Hype Farm racing logo with a full branding section of it. And they're wrapping the Razor right now. And this morning I was like, hey, that orange better be the same color tone as the screen print on the shirt, because if I show up with 3 different oranges, just naturally I'm going to freak out, because I know, and Evan that comes and sees it, he'll be like, oh, that's cool. But when it's all together, it's like, you're going to know something's off. And so with consistency, with brand, I think branding is extremely important, and it's worth spending the money on, because I feel like that helped drive a huge multiple for Green Mango when Pesco came. Hey, we had our systems in place. We had our branding in place. We had, obviously our model was dialed in, and the combination of everything was like why we drove a high multiple. If you're starting your business right now or you're rebranding, one of the main things that I focus on is not only just like, hey, are we going with like the animation side of things? Or are we going with a sleek logo? Whatever it is that you decide, make sure that it's consistent. I think that's one of the most important things that you do, from the fonts you use to the color tones to, the sizing and the same voice. We were very specific with Green Mango and using the same copywriter. So it was the same voice that we used in all aspects of marketing, from websites to leave behinds to marketing pieces in and of itself. So when you're creating that brand, make sure you're consistent across all boards.
We've talked to over 160 people in regard to they want to franchise with Coconut. And when I really get down to the core of a lot of these guys who are entrepreneurs at heart, is like they don't know how to brand themselves, or they've been doing business for a couple of years and they're like, I don't know how to get anyone's attention. I have 500 5-star reviews for my current carpet cleaning business. I have everyone that gets serviced by me sees me again, but I just don't know how to market myself. And so in a world where attention is the number one currency, Coconut has the brand rule and the brand guide for how to dominate in your industry. If you are interested in franchising with Coconut and you want to make some noise in your market, go ahead and scan the QR code here on the screen, and that'll lead you to our franchise inquiry website. That'll allow you to talk with me. I'll get on the phone with you and we'll go over how you can dominate in 2026.
Let's talk about ad spend for a minute, man. That was one of your questions that you have. Like, what question do you have there? Like, how much should I allocate? What is it?
Yeah, how much do I allocate? I know what channels depends on kind of where we're seeing that return, but I hear all over the board. Like, I hear some people, oh, you need to stay like right around 5%. And then I've heard other podcasts were like, oh, you can go up to like 20%. I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot, you know? So I know the general rule of thumb was like 10, and that's where, looking back at last week's episode, talking about like where our percentage needs to be, we kind of fell into 10. But basically how to figure that out and how to take action on that.
I love it. I love ad spend. I feel like it's the closest call to action form of marketing outside of door to door, where you can put money in and you can get immediate results for how it's performing. And I think there's, before you hop into like, what's budget, where do I do it? You really want to take a look at your promotion, your call to action, and your copy. So I think for any ad spend, you want to take a look at those three things. And then of course you look at the, whether it's a picture or whether it's a video format. So if you really take a look at your organic post and you have something that's performing really well, and you say, I normally never do 20% off, so I'm going to do a 20% off promotion. And I want the call to action to be book before Christmas and I'll give you 20% off, right? The reason I love ad spend so much is that when you have those three things down with the right picture or the right video, you could literally, you don't have to commit 10%. You could commit $50 a day. And then 2 weeks later, you could get results back saying, hey, video A had way less click-throughs, but video B, dude, you crushed it. You got leads. Are you converting those leads? Are they the right ones? And then at that point, you can keep going until you get diminishing returns. So to me, ad spend has less to do with like, are you doing it on Meta? Are you doing it on TikTok? Are you doing it on, for me, I just have a bad experience with TikTok, but I'd recommend either Google ads or Meta ads, but really nail down the copy, call to action, and promotion, and then take something that organically performed well and put that as your, the main design that you want.
One of the things that we did at Green Mango is that we would always look back and say, hey, last year we were at 15%. I think if you're wanting to take over a market, you need to be between 15 and 20%. If you're kind of trying to maintain where you're at, around 10% should take you there. Like, that's just what we've seen with our companies. So you can take that for what it's worth. But one thing that I would say is whatever you decide at the beginning of the year that you're going to spend next year on ad spend, see it through. Okay. So you can't go test. And I'm not saying go waste money, right? But you have to test it. If someone goes and puts $20,000 into a marketing ad or a radio ad and they cancel after month 2, like, I could have told you that wasn't going to work. It's a long game. Google, what Evan just talked about, is the same. If you're not split testing ads consistently, if you don't have a good plan of action to go in and split testing, like, you're going to waste money there. So you need to be prepared to understand, hey, what is the game within this source? Realtors. We went after realtors for a long time. We knew that we were going to go 6 months probably until we got our first realtor referral, because we had to go and pitch these guys at their continual education hour classes, get in front of, at least 200 people. And out of those 200 people, they were going to go, the average realtor, I think, closes 1.5 to 2 houses a year is all. So what are the chances of us going to pitching that realtor month 1 and them closing 1 of 2 houses this year in months 2 or 3? Like, it was very, very low. But we understood that going into it. And so the money that we allocated to that program was justified in knowing that we didn't overextend, right? I would go to those pitches a lot. Evan would go to those pitches a lot. It's not like we hired a full-time person or not right off the bat. But once it started to pick up, what was the first thing that we did? We hired a person to take my spot, to take Evan's spot, and now he was in charge of the weekly realtor meetings. And so when you think about ad spend, it's one, okay, what do we want to do this year? Committing to that number. And then I'm a huge believer in casting a wide net. So I love that when we look at our sales sheet, and I think we've gone over this a few times on the podcast, is when we look at our sales report every single day, it's not just Google ads where we're getting sales. Like, it's 1 or 2 pops in 10 or 12 different to 15 different sources. That's what you're wanting to do. And so this year, with how new you are, you have so many different ways of testing new markets. And that's why when we're talking about, hey, where should you focus this year? It's getting sales in the door. It's not from focusing on, how do I help this guy get out on the truck? How do I put this truck together? There's people that'll put your trucks together, and it's worth them spending, even if it was $500 to $1,000, it's worth paying that so you can go generate that. I mean, that's 2 sales for you. Mm-hmm. So if that takes you more than a day to do or half a day to install a truck, it's like you should be able to go generate 4 to 6 accounts every single day, right? So don't go put together that truck, go generate it and pay for that.
Being at our current stage, almost three years in, how do you build that culture from a small level, but maintain it and improve it as you get bigger?
So I think where I go to now, where I feel like Cameron set me up for success, was having the premium brand and standards. So back to like kind of all this ties together, is when you have your standards and what's important, and like if I just stay on the brand, and if I keep enforcing these kind of standards, the byproduct of that is growth. And so now when you have growth, you have more people, and that's where the topic of culture comes into play. And so where I start now with anyone asking about culture is define it, right? I remember talking to someone from the 1% Club, and he said, I just want this culture. And I said, what's this culture? And he literally everyone just seems like collaborative and feedback's okay, and it's not met with resistance. And so I said, exactly. And so I looked at what behaviors would need to be taught to create that culture, and then that's what I would work on. And so I would work on with my leaders, and Cameron and his coach taught me this, but okay, leave your ego at the door. So here's what that means. If I have my leaders who can now be taught to say, hey, is your ego at the door? Yeah. I just don't think you're holding your technicians to a higher standard like my team is, and they're seeing that your guys are getting off with a lot more than mine. Now I have 2 leaders in the background having a fierce conversation where they can then go out and in a united front present themselves in a way that people are like, I don't know what this is, but I want that. Mm-hmm. And so I would say, whatever culture you want, define it. Do you want a fun culture, competitive culture? Do you want a competitive culture of people that are just top line employees and they're just always growing and they're always, okay, 1, you have to be that. And then 2, if you can't be that entirely, you need to make sure that the leadership around you has those attributes and characteristics that, if copied, would create that culture at scale, right? And so define it, and then live by the standards and behaviors that the byproduct of that would be the thing that you're looking for, right? So if, hey, I want to have a very friendly marriage and a one that's open where we could talk about anything, be that first. Be your spouse's person where she can say anything to you, even if it's hard to hear. And you're like, yeah, I really could work on that. I appreciate you sharing. And it doesn't mean, oh, now I get to say what I want, but it's those little things day in and day out. You're going to start looking at your team being like, man, I could say anything I want to my managers, and they know it's coming from a good spot. And I see the frontline employees who are also open to feedback. Like, I'm so happy with that.
One of the things that I feel like Evan does a great job at this is that he shares like the constraints and the struggles with the business. And there's a fine line there of being like Debbie Downer, Ricky and Cameron, but also like, hey guys, I just want to let you know what's going on. And I think I can speak for myself that even up until $15-20 million in revenue, like I didn't share the problems. And I feel like that held back our culture. But when I went to them and said, hey, we are struggling at this, I think we can get there and have a plan of action and then be optimistic. But hey, I want you to know like we're struggling. I've seen Evan go in there and tell them, hey, we are 2 months away from, I don't know if closing the doors, but it's like, hey, we're
making drastic decisions.
Decisions. This is what needs to change. And the rally cries of people coming and being there and staying later and doing whatever needs to get done for Coconut has been really special. And I think, I always joke, I say Evan's the culture guy because it's true, because he spends time with people, and I think people respect that. And so are you doing your one-on-ones with your people?
I haven't done a one-on-one in about probably 5 months.
Yeah, so
I've
that
done
needs to be a sacred
but,
rhythm, for you. And I'm not just saying that. Like Evan can speak to it. I was never great at them, but Evan did those for me, and I think we saw culture go through the roof. So are you
didn't
0
miss.
to 350 or 600,000? Like, would you encourage him to meet with his people one-on-one?
More so, I think a one-on-one happens daily, and the reason why you create that standard, even in a small way daily, is so that when you have more employees in there, they still know that like on Tuesday, I'm gonna get 15 minutes to bend your ear about freaking the new hire that you just brought on. And the reason why that's so important, because like I think that's such an important principle to highlight, because there's so many things that you could enforce that helps culture. But at the end of the day, it's like your business is about one person. It's about that one customer. It's that one employee. And I think that it's super important for small business owners to say, if I want a good culture, I need to get down to the one, and I need to figure out what's their experience here. Are they getting the pay that they were promised, the commissions they were promised? Is their van working? It's so important to break it down to the one. And when you do that collectively as a whole, the whole team is going to be lifted and elevated, because they're going to feel heard, and they're going to feel like I only have to go 7 days until I can share this problem that I have going on. And when you have a bunch of people who aren't sandbagging emotions or frustrations, you're going to find that you have a culture that says, I know that my input is valued here, and I know that this company wants me moving forward. And I also know that if I'm doing something wrong, I'm going to hear it pretty quickly as well.
If your culture is suffering and you're looking for ways to improve in 2026, I want you to do this one thing this year, and I promise you will see the benefit from it. It's holding a one-on-one meeting weekly with the people underneath you. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 15 or 30 minutes. But what you'll find in that one-on-one meeting is it's a time for you to listen, and it's a time for them to vent their frustrations and their wins. You will get a better pulse on your business of where you need to focus to help your culture get to where you want it to be.
I'm telling you, what we did day in and day out for years was very small and simple things like recognizing birthdays and anniversaries. And when you do little things like that and you hold your one-on-ones, you don't have to have the big quarterly or biannual events. You can do very simple events at your home, at the office. It doesn't matter. We've done it all, but it all feels the same because the people feel appreciated throughout the year and day in and day out.
So I've been part of the 1% Club since March of this year. Started at Tommy's event, and I've been part of it ever since. I've been able to target our marketing with the consumer playbook that we did a couple months back, and then the A players one as well, showing my guys how for me to delegate, but also show them, hey, you are responsible and you have that control to make those decisions. So if you're looking to join the 1% Club, I've learned a lot. I'm probably one of the smaller companies in it, but it's been a huge game changer for me, and I recommend it to anyone.